Hi, everybody. It's Joe Chaffee on this Saturday, and we're wrapping up a pretty nice Saturday indeed after the nasty weather of the last few days. Temperatures are kind of cool. They're in the low to mid 50s, but you start to move into central and south Jersey, you get to some upper 50s and low 60s. Same for southeastern Pennsylvania and down into south central PA, north central Maryland. We're also looking at upper 50s and low 60s there. So got some warmer air that's going to start coming up. I want to jump first off to the upper air pattern overall because it really doesn't look all that active for the most part for the eastern half of the United States at least. You know, we're starting out with a trough off the East Coast, and we've got a lot of action going into the West where things are very busy. So we're back to this pattern. Looks like a trough in the West and a ridge that wants to build in the eastern part of the United States. That was kind of the signature for a good part of the winter anyway, where we would go into these 2 and 3 week stretches with the ridge in the east and the trough in the west. And here's our warm-up over the next couple of days. So whenever you see a big ridge that builds like this, that's warm air. The jet stream, the jet stream carrying air masses along is deflected north and west of the coast. You can see where the flow from Canada is going. It's not coming into the United States. It's staying well north of the Canadian border. So all the cold air, or for this time of year anyway, we'll call it cold air, stays up in Canada. That was not the case for the last 4 weeks, and that's why we had storminess that we had to deal with. But with this ridge in the east, things are going to be calming down. And overall, the pattern to me, again, doesn't look especially active for the east. It does look to be active in the west, where the trough seems to want to set up. You know, there's a bit of a cooler shot later this week after Monday and Tuesday, which will be the 2 warm days here in the east, but it's nothing exceptionally cold. And you can see how that ridge wants to come on back. You know, you follow the flow of the air, and our air is basically coming out from the southwest, out of the Pacific, and then across the United States. Again, this is now this is next Saturday, and still no sign of any Canadian air getting involved. So all that action is going to stay in the western part of the U.S. They're going to continue to get more rains as we get deeper and deeper into the spring. In fact, when we look at right around day 8 and 9, which is Sunday and Monday, April 16th and 17th, there's a pretty good little system here in the upper atmosphere that wants to drive its way down into Southern California, and that's a bad arrow, into Southern California and into the Southwest. Little weak system moving across the Great Lakes. No major storms impacting the east. Again, we're going to see that action all in the west. See, look at that. That trough is just in the west all the way through. We'll look at the surface map, and we can play it out with respect to that. We get a little tighter. We're starting off, by the way, with weather today in the western U.S. While the east is dry, everywhere east of the Rockies is dry. You know, this afternoon we're seeing rains and snows. They're beginning to diminish, though, as we move into tonight and tomorrow. And then another weather system comes into the northwest. Meanwhile, you can see where the front sets up right along the Canadian border and then just south into the northernmost plain states. So the colder air is on up through here. We're nice and warm. Look at this nice west-southwest flow that begins on, whoops, I didn't want to do that. But let's see. There we go. So you got this nice west-southwest flow that's setting up. The high goes off the mid-Atlantic coast. So that's just typical with whenever you have a ridge in the eastern part of the United States. And here's your boundary, your let's call it your polar boundary. So here's where you have the cold air that's coming down from Canada into the northernmost plains. Another arm of moisture comes into the Pacific Northwest on Sunday night into Monday. And then yet here's another storm just offshore in the middle of next week. So a lot of action there for California, For central and northern California on northward, more heavy rains and mountain snows. Weak front that moves through here on Tuesday night, early Wednesday. The air is a little cooler behind it, but nothing especially cold. Gets a little cooler toward the end of the week. And then if this model's correct, it wants to bring in a little moisture for Easter Sunday. Here's that system now as we move into day 8 and 9 with rains into Southern California and some snows there too. So that's that system that the model wants to bring into the southwest, which eventually winds up being a storm over in Colorado with some rains and snows from there up into Wyoming and in the plains. We're now at day 11 here. So again, remember, bear in mind, this could be fantasy land at this point. So the bottom line is, I think the weather's going to take a quiet turn here for a little while for most of the country, except for the western part of the United States. Now, as we look at the satellite views going into this evening, still some leftover clouds in New England, though that's finally pulling away, and all of this dry air that's taking over. Nothing in terms of any kind of severe weather or thunderstorms to speak of. We will look now at the western satellite loop, and there's that storm that's come in now into the northwest. And here's another one that's moving across the Pacific, moving southeastward toward the Pacific Northwest coast. It's just a train of them out in that. It's amazing how the Pacific jet has been just unrelenting for the last 4 or 5 months. And even on the radar, you can see where all the action is. There's some rains and probably some mountain snows into California, some downpours in Oregon and Washington. You've got rain and snows in parts of Idaho, Nevada, into northwestern Utah. Kind of diminishes a bit as you go into the plains. But if you look across the south and you look across the northeast, except up into Maine, things are very, very quiet. So, you know what? Let's enjoy this dry weather pattern while we have it. And I don't anticipate any big changes. The models are all fairly consistent with the idea over the next week to 10 days. So when we start to see maybe a little bit of a change in the upper air someplace, and that might change things toward the end of the month. But you know, it just wants to go back to storminess in the west for a little while. Not particularly all that excited with regards to the weather going forward. So while it's nice and calm, just relax and enjoy it. All right, so subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Just hit the little red subscribe button on my channel page and become a subscriber. That doesn't cost you a dime, and you get notifications when there are new videos posted, which is usually once a day. And you can check out all the latest website posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com. And Angry Ben has New York City covered on nycweathernow.com. And, of course, visit my Facebook page, Meteorologist Joe Chaffee, Cioffi. And if you like it, hit the like button. And you'll get all sorts of posts about weather in the Northeast, along with some other interesting factoids with regards to weather across the United States and around the world. Everybody have a great rest of your Saturday, and enjoy your weekend.